I'm going to be making a Plants vs. Zombies pool level, the first half of it, but in Minecraft. I'm going to challenge myself to build realistic models and animations for each plant and zombie, as well as unique habitats for them. So let's get started. At the very beginning, we're going to make a lily pad. It's basically just a circle. So at first, I made an outer circle, using the Pixel Circle website as a reference. And then I filled the inside with cubes, and resized some of the cubes as cracks. And finally, 2 little eyes. And that's it for lily pad. The only thing lily pad does is float. It's a very quiet, slow, relaxing floating motion. So I set up a 4-second animation to make it move slowly up and down. You can easily find lily pad in the pool. Oh my gosh, look at his eyes. It's just floating lazily on the water with some splashing. I also put in the lily pad from Minecraft as a comparison. The native lily pad is much darker and doesn't move a bit. I dare say I like the current lily pad better, and I'm very proud of what I've done. I put more lily pads in the pool and everything looks peaceful. Look at this slime. He's even standing on the lily pad. The lily pads are very fragile and don't attack, so when there are zombies in the pool, we need to place the plants on the lily pads. You may recall the last time we made a puff shroom. But just like in the game, the puff shroom sleeps during the day, like this. Look at their Z. They can't attack while sleeping, and since we don't have coffee beans, we can't wake them up. So I still have the pea shooter on the lily pad, and this looks great. Really great. The other one, if you put the pea shooter on the ground, it just roots on the ground. If you put it on a lily pad, it moves up and down with the lily pad, which is interesting. Now I need to find the right environment for the lily pad, a botanical garden, a habitat, whatever you want to call it. When making the lily pad, it should live in a pond, but the current pond is boring. Next, I will be creating a nice proper pond for the lily pad. My plan is fairly simple, which is to create a small park of sorts. I will begin by fencing off the area I have planned. This is big enough for me. Then I will dig out a channel, which I will later fill with water. Next, I'll build 2 rockeries at either end of the channel. So it looks like the water's coming out of the ground. It makes more sense. Then I filled in the water between the 2 hills, repeating the placement many times to flatten the water a bit. And now the river looks like it originates from amongst the hills. Now it's time to put the lily pad on. It's looking good. These lily pads are enjoying the river and the sunshine. I added some trees, some leaves, and some flowers on the grass for decoration. And finally, I added a small bridge so you can stand on it and look at the lily pad. This looks really nice, and I really like this little park. I will rate it 9 of 10. Let's make a duck tube zombie. For those of you who don't know how to make a zombie is just a body, with 2 hands, a head, and eyes of different sizes. And finally, 2 legs and broken pants. That's a regular zombie. Let's turn it into a duck tube zombie. Let's start with a yellow circle. Make several copies of it. The bottom one is a darker color. Let's make a duck's head, black eyes, and a duck's beak, and finally a duck's tail. Let's put the duck tube on the zombie. It fits. Our duck tube zombie is done. This is what the Ducky tube zombie looks like in the game. It's floating in the water right now. Look at its ducky tube. It's cute. Obviously, the zombie is not cute. Look at the water weed stuck to its head and hands. They must have just gone to another pond. I made 3 types of duck tube zombies. Duck tube normal zombie. Duck tube cone head zombie. Duck tube bucket head zombie. Their health is the same as the zombies on land. The Ducky tube zombie floats on water and doesn't move very slowly. However, since the water is very shallow, a land zombie can actually stand up and not become a sink zombie. Let's start a battle since we have enemies attacking from the water. I placed the lily pad and the pea shooter on top of the lily pad. Then a Ducky tube zombie was placed in the water. The zombie slowly swims to the other side of the channel. The pea shooter fires peas at the other side from the lily pad. The zombie's arm is knocked off and falls into the water. The combination of the lily pad and the pea shooter is my favorite combination. Simple and cheap, but very powerful. Now I thought this wild pond was boring and monotonous, so I decided to make a real Crazy Dave's house backyard. Actually, a player's backyard, whatever you want it to be. So the first thing I tried was to build a backyard pool, using stone blocks from Minecraft. But the blocks are so wide that you can even put plants on them, which is just weird. And in the game, the stone blocks behind the pool are huge. But the stone blocks in Minecraft look small. It didn't really look like Crazy Dave's house. So I decided to go back to the block bench and make different stone blocks around it. The first two kinds of stone blocks look like this, which I intended to use to put around the edge of the pool. The last two textures are staggered meshes, so I could place larger-looking stone blocks. The final result of the pool looks like this in the game. It looks amazing, and I love the look. It was simple, but it worked perfect for what I had in mind. But I still have a lot more work to do. Next, I'm going to make Crazy Dave's home. I'm going to make Crazy Dave's home using a Minecraft block, which looks stupid and doesn't have a lifeguard tower, duck toy, and chairs. My goal is to recreate Crazy Dave's home as much as possible. So I went back to Blockbench again and recreated the doors, windows, lifeguard tower, and chairs. And the fence. And now we're putting them in the game. This looks really good for our photography. And it's a real backyard pool fight with Ducky Zombie, lily pad, and a lot of other stuff that looks really good. It's time to build a habitat for the Ducky Zombie. In my opinion, we need to surround the enclosure with an iron fence to prevent the zombie from escaping. This should be big enough. I need to put 2 pea shooters at the entrance to attack the zombies leaving from here. Inside the enclosure, I simply removed the blocks here and added the marble pool floor I just made around it. This looks great for a luxury pool. I filled the rest of it with water and put the zombies in. Oh my gosh, there are a lot of different Ducky zombies in here. I also put a lot of equipment on the floor of the pool as decoration, such as Ducky toy, chairs, tables, sun umbrellas. These look great. This is where Ducky Zombie likes to be, I guess. I give this place 8/10. Next, I'm going to make a squash. First, I'm going to make a green ellipsoid, and then the bottom part that's going to protrude out. I'm going to add some darker green to make this part more clearly visible. I'm going to add a root to the head, then the face, the eyes, and the angry eyebrows. And now squash is done. This is what squash looks like in the game. It looks angry and unhappy. I did some research on the internet, and it's actually a chayote. You can find squash by the side of a mountain road, just like a pumpkin. Let's put a zombie and then put a squash. Oh my gosh, Squash squashes the zombie. Look at this zombie. Just like in the actual game, Squash can see zombies from both sides and squash them. If a zombie appears between 2 squash, both squash will squash that zombie, which is weird. But I'm going to keep this feature. Let's place more zombies. Then a squash. Oh my gosh. Squash is very powerful and kills all the zombies at once. Since this is now a pool level, we can also put squash on the lily pad. Although right now lily pad 25 sunlight plus squash 50 sunlight is too expensive for killing a zombie. But right now we don't have Tangled Kelp, so that's it. What if we place a duck tube zombie? Ducky Tube Zombie swims over. Squash sees Ducky Tube Zombie and jumps into the air, crushing Ducky Tube Zombie. The next thing I'm going to do is create a suitable habitat for Squash to grow in. I'll mark the place and size where I'll build this habitat. And now with these stone blocks, our habitat fence is done. I've decorated the enclosure with foliage, and I've even put some outside the fence to make this habitat even prettier. With all of that ready, now I can cover the entire floor of this habitat with moss blocks. Since squash grows on vines, I put up some bushes. Then I put some vines on the bushes, and now it's time to hang some squash on the vines. And then finally I put squash on the vines, and this looks real nice. Hoping that the squash wouldn't fall and hit me. I planted more trees, placed more vines, and squash. I'll also place some of these flowers on the floor and these bushes. This is the squash new home. And I think he's quite happy. Though his face doesn't look happy. The rating I give to this construction is an 8. Let's make a 3-peater. We first need a pea shooter head. We've already made a pea shooter in the first video. But for those who haven't seen the first video, let's start from a scratch. First a green ball, then the mouth part and the black part to shoot the peas. Let's put 2 eyes on the head. And finally, we'll add pea leaves to the back of the head. The pea shooter head is ready. Let's make 2 more copies at different heights. We'll connect the 3 heads to the ground with the stalks in the shape of arcs. And finally, the leaves on the ground. And now our 3-peater is pretty much done. This is what 3-peater looks like in the game. Look at its little heads, each one thinking of something different. 3-peater can fire 3 peas in 3 different directions at a time, which is useful when there's a zombie in the water, but you don't have a lily pad. Again, I made these peas shoot from different heights, so it looks like they're coming from 3 different heads. Let's plant the 3-peater on land and put a zombie in the water. There are no lily pads in the water and no zombies on land, but 3-peater still shoots peas and attacks the zombies on the water. Eventually kills the Ducky tube zombie. If we put 2 3-peater on 2 paths near the water, we can cover the entire map with zombies. Let's try it. I placed zombies on each road. Wow, the zombies on each road received an attack and were eventually killed. I like the 3-peater, it's very powerful, but the downside is that it requires 325 sunlight, which is too expensive. I rate it 3-peater 7 out of 10. Now I plan to create a botanical garden for 3-peater. Since peas are a common food, I plan to create a 3-peater farm. I want to do it exactly like the squash one. The only difference is that I'm going to improve it. I'll make a much larger... Just like the village farm in Minecraft, I'll start by fencing off the area with wood. What I need to do now is fill the area with grass cubes. Mr. Piggy, what are you doing here? After I fill it, all I need to do is plow it in preparation for planting. Now it's time to place the 3-peater. I've placed the 3-peater in different places, and it seems to be enjoying itself. I put some more wheat seeds to make the farm look more colorful. Oh my gosh. It started to rain from the sky and the land got wet so the crops could grow faster. The environment looks really good like this. I can't forget the main thing, which is the water channel, so I dug some water channels for irrigation. On sunny days, these plants also get plenty of water. And since this is a pea farm, some peas are growing randomly. It looks really nice. But this farm needed more decoration, and I put some more boxes for crops, as well as some haystacks for no good reason. Now villagers can harvest peas for food. Would you do that, Mr. Villager? I give this pea farm 9 out of 10. Let's make a Snorkel Zombie. I'm going to start with the normal zombie model I made earlier. Give him a white shirt and red shorts. Put snorking fins on his feet. Put swimming belts on his shoulders. Let's put on a snorking mask and snorkel. Our Snorkel Zombie is pretty much done. This is what Snorkel Zombie looks like in the game. Look at its Snorkel mask, it's really weird. Zombies don't need oxygen. Most of the time, Snorkel Zombie dives like this, just sticking its head out of the water. So the pea shooter can't see the Snorkel Zombie and won't attack it. It is when Snorkel Zombie encounters a plant that it sticks its head up higher to eat the plant. In this case, the pea shooter can also see the Snorkel Zombie and shoots peas at it. But what if there were no obstacles between Snorkel Zombie and lily pad? Oh my gosh, Snorkel Zombie swims towards pea shooter and is not detected. Eventually, Snorkel Zombie starts to eat pea shooter. Pea shooter starts to shoot peas, but it's too late. Snorkel Zombie eventually kills pea shooter. What happens if you place a squash on the lily pad? Oh, squash sees Snorkel Zombie and crushes him under the water. But look at the squash model. Its eyes aren't looking into the water. How did it see Snorkel Zombie? I don't know. I am now going to build a habitat for Snorkel Zombie. In the real game, there's a mini-game where Snorkel Zombie lives in an aquarium. So in my world, I'm going to build an aquarium too. First, I marked the area of the aquarium with an iron block. This size looks good. After this was done, I filled the area with sand blocks because this area is the bottom of the aquarium. The next thing I had to do was decorate the bottom. I started by adding a lot of rocks to the bottom to make the bottom look less boring. To make these rocks look better, I even customized 2 kinds of rocks in block bench so that we can place it in the aquarium. And look at the aquarium in the game, there's a submarine here. So I built a submarine in block bench, and hey, here's what he looks like in the game. It looks amazing. Now that the bottom of the aquarium is done, it's time to put the glass around it, because we're going to fill it up with water later on. After finishing all the glass walls, let's put another layer of boards like this, and then we'll put water on top of it. To make it even more attractive, I added a lot more coral here, here, and here as decoration. The next thing I'm going to do is to add some seaweed, which even grows in the crevices of the rocks. Let's take a look at it from the outside. It's a really nice aquarium. I really like this aquarium. The next most important thing is, I'm going to put Snorkel Zombie inside the aquarium. Hey, look at these Snorkel Zombies. They're diving. It's awesome. I'm very proud of what I've done. I give this aquarium a 10. Let's make a Tangled Kelp. First a dark body, probably made of mud and weeds. Then the seaweed that wraps around it. Let's make a few more copies. Finally add some red thorns and some more. Now that Tangled Kelp is done. This is Tangled Kelp in the game. It doesn't look like it likes anything to bother it. Look at its eyes. It looks like it wants to kill me. Tangled Kelp takes up a square, so when you put a Tangled Kelp in the pool, you can't put a lily pad. Let's place a Ducky tube zombie. When a zombie comes close to the Tangled Kelp will reach out and grab the zombie, then sink and drown the zombie like so. even against Snorkel Zombie. Let's see what happens if we have 3 Tangled Kelp and 3 Snorkel Zombie. Snorkel Zombie slowly swims towards Tangled Kelp. No one can spot Snorkel Zombie except Tangled Kelp. Tangled Kelp extends its vines and pulls the zombies closer to the water. One by one, Tangled Kelp is cheap and powerful. So when I place a pea shooter on the back lily pad, I also place a Tangled Kelp in the front row for killing Snorkel Zombies, as well as Dolphin Rider Zombies. And since it only costs 25 sunlight, it's cheaper than the combination of squash and lily pad. After all, you can't put a potato mine in the water. What happens if you fill a pool with Tangled Kelp? Oh my gosh, this pool is no longer suitable for humans to swim in, or zombies for that matter. I would also create a habitat for Tangled Kelp. I came up with the idea of creating a swamp of ruins so that Tangled Kelp hides in it and waits for its prey. The ruin swamp I'm going to make is very simple, so I first created an enclosure using wood, which I think is great. Then I dug up the area and filled it with wasteland, as if grass wouldn't grow here. Now it looks great here, or maybe it's bad for plants because it's just dry land. I went on to add some dead bushes here and some rotting roots here and here. Now the place looks even more run down and there will be no life there. I dug out another channel where I will place some Tangled Kelp. These Tangled Kelp are like traps. Then I simply put a tree. But the important thing is that the tree has fallen down and become an obstacle, and now this shape looks good. I will now do the same thing to create another tree which is also broken. The reason I took so much tree was to make this ruined swamp full of obstacles and hard to get through. Now Tangled Kelp Swamp is done. Most people or zombies that try to pass through here will be caught and killed by Tangled Kelp. So I've also added a board at the entrance and added a danger message. Now I'm going to give this dangerous habitat a 9 out of 10. Let's start a final battle. I started by putting in some lily pads, and then put 3 Peter on top of the lily pads too. I also put Tangled Kelp in front of the pool, to keep the Snorkel Zombie from diving. I also put 3 Peter on the shore and squash in front of the grass to squish the zombies. It's a very powerful plant army, and I don't think any zombies can take them down. To get the battle started, I placed zombies in each of the grass paths, a Ducky tube zombie in the pool path, and a Snorkel Zombie. 3 Peter started attacking the zombies, but Snorkel Zombie was diving, so he wasn't attacked. The zombies on land were also squashed by squash. And the remaining zombies were knocked down one by the 3 Peter. The last zombie is also pulled down by Tangled Kelp. In the end, our plants won and our brains were safe. I will continue working on the second half of the pool level in the next video, including the mini-game, coins, lawnmower, and the final battle. If you like this video, click subscribe.